Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of JD's NASCAR and Sports Podcast. On this week's episode, we recap the chaos at Pocono and look forward to Richmond. Continue to like, listen, subscribe, rate, and review on Apple if you don't care, and I appreciate all the support. And let's get into this episode. If you didn't know it, Pocono is back, and in a big way. Camping was completely sold out crowd, and the race delivered. Obviously, headlines after headlines, but the racing in general, especially restarts at Pocono, are insane. The track's so big and wide that you can go 5, 6, 7 wide on restarts, and like it's nothing. And Xfinity and Cup delivered. Xfinity was a good race, and Cup, so. A great weekend for NASCAR racing, and I think Richmond will be as good as it can be. A lot of people don't like Richmond, just boring races, long green flag runs. We'll see if that's the same or different coming up this week. But to start off with the Pocono recap, first incident was on lap 6. J.J. Yaley spun his number 15 machine and had pretty decent contact with the wall. He was coming off a good finish. I think finished 8th at Atlanta or 7th. And that was good for his team. We don't really mention the back markers a lot unless they do really well or something terrible, but he had a pretty big wreck there at the beginning. And that was really the only caution or wreck in Stage 1. Joey Logano goes on to win Stage 1. It was a good thing Joey salvaged those points because after the Stage 1 pit stops and then the restart, Joey and Daniel Suarez get collected in a wreck. And Daniel Suarez, his day ended immediately after this wreck. And he was right on the bubble going into this race of the playoffs. I think he was 1 point out, and now he's almost 20 points out. So might have to win. I think there's still a way he could point his way in, but I don't see that, honestly, with the way they've ran this year. Maybe we got some road courses coming up. Of course, he won at Sonoma last year, was his only win so far, but road courses coming up. Maybe you find some magic there. But he wanted to have a good, solid run this week, and wrecking very early in this race was not on the radar, obviously, and it ended up ending Joey's day too. After he wrecked, didn't look like he had too much damage, but once they towed his car back and saw there was actually pretty significant damage, and the controversy around this is Joey wanting 4 fresh tires to come out with the tow truck. I don't think that's going to work. In these new cars, when all 4 tires go flat, you can't go anywhere, and that's why he had to be towed back. I mean, even if you don't have any damage other than that, you still can't go anywhere, and that's a complaint with this next gen. I love the car, honestly, but that's one thing that really aggravates me, and I'm sure really ticks off the drivers. But his suggestions have a crew come out and change the tires and just let him drive back to the pits, and I don't see how that works. Maybe he can elaborate more on that, and we'll see. But it takes trained pit crews long enough to change tires on pit road, and at Pocono you're banked where he spun out, so I mean it would be even more of a challenge. And if more than one person wrecks, where are you going to score the other people? Who gets tires first? That kind of thing. It's a good question, and so I just don't agree with that philosophy from Joey. After the Logano and Suarez incident, we have a restart, and Austin Dillon is towards the back of the field and gets spun by the 78 of B.J. McLeod. Looked like the 78 chased his car up the track, and rare mistake from the 78. He's a back marker, but he usually stays out of the way, and just on a restart, looked like he was chasing the car up and ends up spinning Austin Dillon. Austin Dillon was able to continue. Not a lot of damage, actually hardly any at all. And then we have another restart. The beginning of this race was crazy. A lot of wrecks, a lot of restarts, and then it kind of mellowed out after that. But after the Austin Dillon incident, Christopher Bell pushes Larson, Kyle Larson, too hard into turn one, and then Larson spins in front of the field. Great job by all the drivers not to hit Larson or for him to collect anybody else, and he had minimal damage, which the spin kind of helped him strategy-wise. Later on in the race, we'll get to that. No significant pit road issues after that Larson crash. People held serve on pit road pretty much all day long. No big penalties or anything that I remember seeing, other than Brad Keselowski lost a lot of spots after that Larson crash on pit road. He lost several spots. He was running up front, and then after that kind of went to the back. And I wrote here, love seeing Denny and Alex Bowman running so close together. And that was because, as we talked about last week, my golden retriever, Titus, his name was on Alex Bowman's car. So having Bowman and Denny running close together was awesome to see in that respect. But at the same time, if you've watched NASCAR at all, you know that those guys tend to race each other pretty hard. Denny's my guy. But I like Bowman. He's super nice and not a bad driver in my opinion. There was a time that I thought Bowman was questionably, I didn't know if he deserved a Hendrick ride. Well, now I do now. I think that he's good. This year, running super well at the beginning of the year. I think he was first or second in points at one point at the beginning of the year, just solid runs, and then he had that injury, and he was working on a great run here at Pocono, which I predicted him to end up in victory lane last week, but we'll get on into that as to why he didn't. After that, after the pit stops and all that, Christopher Bell solo spins, got loose right before the end of stage 2. I think there was 3 laps left in stage 2. Kyle Larson at that point was going to come to pit road to get gas and give up the stage win, but at the last second, Cliff Daniels says, stay out, because of the caution. If he would have pitted there, he would have got a penalty. So Larson stays out. Didn't know if he had enough fuel to get around the track there to win the stage, but he did end up winning the second stage. And they said their fingers were crossed that he made it. I think the car was actually sputtering as he was heading down pit road, which means he was going to run out if he didn't get there on that lap. So Kyle Larson wins stage 2. He ran pretty well after that minor incident earlier. He ran well all race. And, Ron Blaney was battling for the lead after the end of stage 2. And looked like he was going to have a solid run. Those guys have struggled the last couple of weeks, but was in position to have a solid run again and, loses power. I think he dropped a cylinder. And he was actually battling for the lead when this happened. And just bad luck for him and that team. Last week ran over a hose on pit road. And this week, while battling for the lead, have an engine issue or some kind of issue within the car that resulted in him not having a top 5 or top 10 finish like he wanted to have. Then after the Blaney incident, Austin Dillon and Tyler Reddick. A huge hit for Austin Dillon. Honestly, was worried about the guy. Huge hit. The car was just dismantled. I mean, at Pocono, the high speeds are crazy. They go up to 180, 185, and he hit the wall very hard. And I don't agree with Austin Dillon, his opinion of the incident, or Richard Childress, who said so not nice things about Tyler Reddick on the radio after. But I don't agree with those guys. I think this one's on Austin, to be honest with you. I think Reddick holds his line. He does not drive up into him. The they were 3 wide going into turn 1. It was Reddick, Dillon, and Braden. I think Austin Dillon drove down into Reddick. That's just what I'm seeing. I think Austin Dillon's in the wrong here. I wish he would have looked at a replay before he went on national TV, saying he needed to direct people, and that I don't think that Tyler Reddick did anything intentional here. That's not really how he races. As far as fines go for Austin Dillon for the helmet throw, he launched his helmet at Tyler Reddick's car, missed, but still launched it. NASCAR announced no penalties for anything that happened at Pocono. So that was honestly a little bit of a shock to me. Usually when you have a helmet throw, you usually have a fine or something like that, suspension. But nothing for Austin Dillon. Once again, I'm just going to reiterate the fact I don't think that Tyler Reddick wrecked him on purpose. I think this incident's honestly on Austin. I don't really like taking sides because I normally like most drivers, but I think Reddick's in the right place here, and Austin's wrong. And I know Austin probably sees it different. Been a rough year for him, and had a good run going. I think they were battling for 10th during this incident, and so I can see Austin's frustration. And honestly, in the heat of the moment, maybe he thought that Tyler just ran up into him. I know that's probably a decent possibility too, that he actually thought that. But guess we'll see if he says anything about it in this week coming up or not, or if he dismisses it or what happens here. He could race Reddick different if he thinks he's in the right still. So that'll be an interesting development to see what happens there. After that caution, we have pit stops, and then I think they're actually green flag pit stops on in the run, and Kyle Larson and Denny Hamlin both take 2 tires instead of 4, which that makes them running 1 and 2. If it would have stayed green, I think Larson had it in the bag as long as he was good on fuel, but it did not stay green. We had a couple more wrecks after those stops, with Larson and Denny running first and second. Chase Briscoe gets wrecked by Ty Dillon, and this was a rather strange accident. I don't know if something happened prior to this that TV didn't show, but all I saw was Ty Dillon absolutely running through Chase Briscoe. I don't know what the deal was. There were some people saying that he did it because of Spire's strategy. Corey was running good at the time when this wreck happened, and I'm not sure. I don't know if Chase Briscoe did something to him earlier, but just a very weird wreck for Chase Briscoe, and he was not running well. That team hasn't ran well for a while, but just continues to be a dreadful year for him and that 14 team. So after that, Alex Bowman put himself in a good position this race. He was very fast. I think he had the fastest lap of the race. And currently, at this point, after that Briscoe wreck, Bowman's running 3rd and Denny 4th at the time. And one thing I do not like on the radio is when the spotter is telling the driver that we just got wrecked by somebody when they didn't touch. And in this instance, Denny Hamlin did not touch Alex Bowman's car. As you know, Bowman running in 3rd just looks like he simply gets loose. He's chasing his car up the track before Denny gets there. And even on the broadcast, Dale Jr. says Denny's in the brakes trying to give Alex time to collect his car so he don't plow into him. And I'm of the opinion here, and if you watch the replay, Denny did not touch Alex Bowman. And I hope that Bowman and his team see it that way. I know they've had incidents the last couple of weeks. Denny on his podcast, Actions Detrimental, said that him and Bowman, after the last couple of weeks, have talked, and they were good going into this race. So, I hope this don't change things. I like both these guys. I hated it for Alex, one, because, with the Ally Best Friends sponsorship. I was obviously pulling for Alex a little harder this week. But, you know, he was running solid, had a top 3, top 5 run going. And, you know, with the cautions after that, he probably could have won the race, honestly. And that would have been awesome to see him be there. But, you know, I think Bowman's going to be a factor in Richmond this weekend, too. Hendrick ran really well there in April, and I think they're going to do the same this week. So I'm still, you know, if you've been listening at all, I have picked Alex Bowman and Ty Gibbs to both get in the playoffs. I'm still standing by that, to be honest with you. And you say, well, they're both probably going to have to win. Yeah, I think they are, and I think they will, to be honest with you. And I think both of them will get a win before the regular season's over. We've got 5 races to do it, and I could see one of the two getting a win this week, or either one, honestly. Ty Gibbs ran 9th here in April, and I think Bowman ran 8th. So those are the guys I've got my eye on below the bubble right now that have a really good chance to make it. Now, after the Bowman spin, did anything happen at the end of that race? First, I want to touch on, you know, after the restart, you know, well, first I'm going to go with LaJoy and Priest. So I'm going to save the big one for the very end. LaJoy and Priest got into it, and Priest after the race just waylaid LaJoy while LaJoy's still sitting in his car. So, you know, Ryan Priest had a rough year also. I finally saw a replay of this wreck, and it looked like, honestly, and, you know, like I said, I hate to take sides, it looked like LaJoy just maybe chased his car up and got into Priest. And, you know, Priest was really not happy with that. You know, that's 2 Spire cars taking out 2 Stewart Haas cars back to back. And that I don't know if it was just a very bad coincidence or what happened there, but you had Corey LaJoy and Ryan Priest beef. Now, on to what everybody in the NASCAR community is talking about, and I'm sure what you all have tuned in to hear me talk about. As you all know, Denny Hamlin is my favorite driver, but I also like Kyle Larson. I'd say Larson's probably, honestly, my second or third favorite after Denny. And, you know, after the Kansas race, I said, I love watching these two battle on the track, and that opinion still has not changed. I love to see them race each other, and, you know, I know that they will, as the years go on as well. They're both up front most of the time, and they're battling. And with that being said, I'm just going to give you my honest opinion. Let's see, I'm going to recap you first. What was honestly probably going to, at the time, everybody thought was going to be the final restart. You know, it's go time. Kyle Larson and Martin Truex Jr. line up on the front row, and Denny Hamlin and I think Kevin Harvick on the second row. And Denny Hamlin and Kyle Larson are up on the high side. Denny gives Larson a really good push. Honestly, probably pushed him too far, which is why Larson kind of missed the corner to begin with. And Denny gets side by side with him going into turn 1. And at this point, they are battling for the lead, in my opinion. I mean, for the win, not just the lead, the win. And Denny, you know, leaves Kyle Larson a lane. As he says in his post-race, he did leave him a lane. But I will say slight contact was made. You know, going back, watching the replay, Denny said, you know, I didn't hit him. He's went back and watched the replay. I think he knows now that, you know, there was slight contact. But in his opinion, still clean. Much of the NASCAR community doesn't think that. I think that's honestly just because it's a Denny. But my take on it, you're going for the win. And this would be my opinion if this was Ross Chastain and Chase Elliott racing. You know, I You're going for the win. You're side by side. He didn't intentionally wreck him, in my opinion. I know that's going to be controversial. He gave him a choice, just like he gave Ross Chastain a choice last year. You stay in the gas and you hit the wall, or you lift and, you race side by side. I mean, I don't understand the backlash. People say it's dirty. I don't agree with that necessarily either, to be honest with you. I think it's two guys that are going for a win, and you know what? If I'm Kyle Larson, yes, I am ticked off. To be honest, I'm ticked. This guy and Denny Hamlin has costed me 2 wins, 10 playoff points. I'm going to be ticked. I'm going to race him different. I don't care if he's my friend or not. So I totally get Kyle's response. I would be ticked off if I was in his position. What I don't understand are his delusional fans that are saying Denny's now a hack and has wrecked people to get his 50 wins. That's all BS in my opinion. Denny is a great driver and got win number 50 this weekend at Pocono, and it was awesome to see. And as far as Denny and Larson going forward, Kyle's going to race him different now, and when that comes, I'll probably be upset. But, Denny has kind of put himself in a spot to where, he's going to be raced the same by Kyle as he races Kyle, and I think that's fine, to be honest with you. I think that's how racing should be. No matter if they're your friend or not, I think you should try to race them. And Denny said he races his friends even harder, and you see that. And like I said, these guys, I think, are going to be up front all year long, so it's going to be exciting to see them battle. And, I think Denny will probably have one coming back to him. I don't think Larson will intentionally wreck him, but I can see him putting him in the wall. I guess we'll see. And then when that comes up, I'm going to have the same opinion. I'm going to say, you race how you want to be raced, and I think Denny does that. And me saying that, I don't think either one of them are going to be dirty unless Larson just completely hooks him. Like Chase Elliott did at Charlotte. That would be the only thing that would really tick me off. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think, it'll be a similar situation. And I still like Larson. Of course, Denny's my guy, but my biggest complaint is, all the people hating on Denny and his legacy just because of this incident. And I don't agree with that at all. And I'll be the first to defend him. And you all know that. You know how we are here. And, another thing I wanted to touch on about this whole incident is Kyle Larson under yellow, driving back up to Denny and almost putting him in the wall and cutting his tire down. That's one thing I do not agree with. That should have been a penalty right then, to be honest with you. And NASCAR said they aren't giving any penalties out for anything that happened. Right then should have been a penalty. I don't care if it's Kyle Larson or anybody else in the field. I don't care. Even if Denny did that to someone else, I'm calling for a penalty to him. You can't, under yellow, put somebody in the fence, especially when they're leading the race. If that was the case, why don't, say Chase Elliott's running second and, one of the other Hendrick cars is having a bad day. They're just going to send them up here to put the guy that's in front of Chase Elliott in the wall with no remorse, no penalty, nothing. That makes no sense to me. I'm calling for NASCAR. They need to look at this. Obviously, they're not. But same thing, William Byron last year. Wrecking Denny under caution, that was uncalled for, and I still stand by that as well. And the Larson, you can drive up to the guy, give him a hand gesture, tell him you're going to get him after the race, but don't try to flatten his tire or run him into the wall. I think that's uncalled for. And, I think that it was a good battle, and I know a lot of people are going to see this different, but I'm not going to say Denny's right, and I'm not going to say that Larson's right. Either one, I'm not on a specific side. I think it's just two guys racing for a win, and I love to see it. This is good for NASCAR. It is awesome to be a NASCAR fan right now, and this is just one reason why. These last couple weeks have been absolutely amazing. just the racing, the storylines. It's a good time to be a NASCAR fan, and I love talking about it. So message me and let's talk about this. If you disagree with my Larson and Denny take, let me know about it. I want to hear it. You have people commenting on your stuff, disagreeing with you, but then they never say nothing back. So it's like I don't understand it, and that makes me think of before we leave this Larson and Denny situation. If the roles are reversed, I think Kyle Larson does the exact same thing. We've seen it with even his own teammate at Auto Club last year. He clears himself, puts Chase in the wall. At Watkins Glen, overshoots the corner, puts Chase out of the groove of the track, and goes on to win. Las Vegas last year, Larson did the exact same thing to Bubba Wallace coming off of turn 4. Of course, Bubba retaliated. Glad I can speak clearly. Retaliated in the wrong way of hooking Larson into the wall, but Larson forced him up there. I mean, he forced him up there, put him in the fence. So there's no doubt in my mind that if the roles were reversed, Larson's on the inside, Denny's on the outside, he gets raced the same way. With these next-gen cars, if Denny were to lay back and let Larson go in front of him, he's gone. I mean, he proved that all day long. Larson aero blocked the crap out of him when Denny was trying to chase him down on green flag pit stops. It was really hard to pass at Pocono in these cars if you're trying to catch the leader. Martin Truex said in his post race that you couldn't pass the leader. So I truly think that's also why Denny went so hard. He wanted 50. He wanted 600 for Toyota. He wanted to be the all-time winner at Pocono with 7, and he did that. And I'm so proud of him and his team. I know got some Denny fans listening, and we're proud of him, and we're proud of what he's done. And, controversy or not, 50 is a big thing, and I don't see him stopping anytime soon, to be honest with you. He wants to get to 60. I think that's definitely a possibility, and he's hot right now. 3rd in the points, 55 back of 1st, and if he doesn't get that 25-point penalty earlier in the year from the Ross Chastain incident, he's sitting at 2nd, tied with William Byron for 2nd. So 55 out. It's doubtful that he ends up winning the regular season points, but I think 2nd is very much in the picture, and I think that, he's rolling. We'll see if he can get it done on the big stage. That's been the one thing in his career that he hasn't done, but it's been an awesome journey, and I think he's not slowing down anytime soon. And for all my Denny haters out there that listen as well, I'm sorry. Not really sorry. But, you all get to watch it too, and we'll see what happens. And one more thing on the Denny and Kyle Larson incident. And this is something that I've noticed for a while now. If you're a Denny fan, you notice this. Kyle Petty and bashing Denny, acting like Denny's playing the victim when he gets out, and saying Denny, he's not going to feel remorse because he's never wrong. All that stuff might be true, but I just want to take a minute to say Kyle Petty has hated on Denny Hamlin ever since they had that issue at Dover back in Denny's younger years. They've had, I don't know if Kyle Petty has a personal vendetta towards Denny, if he's jealous of him, what the deal is, but I'm sick of it, to be honest with you, and I hate that it is. But Denny obviously don't care what Kyle Petty thinks. He said that on his podcast this week, and that's good to know, but completely sounds biased. Any situation that Denny's in, Kyle Petty is going to jump, especially if it makes Denny look any bad at all. Kyle Petty's going to jump on the bandwagon and tell you how bad it is and against Denny. So I just wanted to touch on that and say, other than that, I like Kyle Petty, but his bias against Denny Hamlin his whole career has been something that really makes me it irks me, to be honest with you, and not good. Now on to Richmond. I was actually at this race earlier in the year where Kyle Larson won. in April. And, Hendrick ran solid all day long. I know they were just my team to beat at Pocono this weekend. And, Bowman and Larson both ran up front all day long at Pocono. So I don't think that was a bad pick. But, they were really good here in April. Can I pick them again? I don't know. I don't want to pick the same old teams, but, when Kyle Larson finishes first and Josh Berry finishes second, Alex Bowman eighth, Byron ran up front all race long before he got wrecked at the end. How do you pick against them at Richmond this year? Usually that's a JGR track. Usually the Toyotas dominate, but in April of this year, that was not the case. I know it's going to be a lot harder. I don't know if that'll affect the track at all. But, I think Hendrick, you go in and Hendrick's a team to beat. I really think that. And I keep calling for an Alex Bowman victory. I know he's won at Richmond before and, ran really well at Pocono. And I hate to pick the same winner 2 weeks in a row. I think Alex Bowman gets it done in Richmond. I really do. And if he doesn't, then I'll be off the Alex Bowman bandwagon for the year as far as making the playoffs. But I think Hendrick Motorsports dominates this race, and I think Alex Bowman wins. I think Denny and Martin will have good speed. I think Ty Gibbs will have good speed, but I don't think they'll have the speed that Hendrick does. I could be wrong. I'm just giving you my opinion. I think Alex Bowman and that 48 team wind up in victory lane, but it would not shock me also if I just spoke of his name, if Ty Gibbs does. Toyota historically has been good, not as good earlier this year, but, neither one of these guys would shock me. I think I'm the highest on both of those guys as anybody in the industry. You don't really hear anybody acting like either one of those guys has a chance to make the playoffs, but I'm still all in on them. And I think Alex Bowman wins at Richmond. Had a top 3 run going. I think he could have won this race last week if he wouldn't have got loose and spun. And I think the 48 team finds their way back into victory lane after a pretty long drought. I would like to see a battle between Hendrick and Gibbs again. It seems like those are always the best battles. And what happens if Larson and Denny battle again at Richmond? I mean, that would surprise nobody. I mean, honestly. And you talk about having something to talk about then. Does Larson try to get his revenge now? That would be something that, we could see, and we'll see if it happens. I also want to throw in a little caveat of watch for the 4 team and Kevin Harvick the next 2 weeks. Won at Richmond and Michigan last year. He's been solid. Had another great run at Pocono this past week. Watch out for Kevin Harvick. I think, if he's going to win a race in his last year, these 2 weeks here at Richmond and Michigan are going to be his best 2 chances. And I don't really see why he couldn't do it. He ran well at Richmond earlier in the year. So he's definitely a name to watch. Nobody else on that Stewart-Haas camp has come close to what he's done this year. And I just think that what he's doing is actually really special. And for his last year, he's definitely a name to watch. Now, on to our question of the week. This week's question of the week is another great question. And it says, do you believe that incidents like Denny versus Larson, LaJoie versus Priest, so on, are good for the sport of NASCAR? And the answer to that is 100% absolutely. I think that, if you look around NASCAR podcasts, anything to do with NASCAR this week is up in viewership. The race was up in viewership. I definitely think that all this is great for NASCAR. I touched earlier that it's a great time to be a NASCAR fan. I don't think I could have started this podcast at a better time, to be honest with you. Every track we've been at lately, the stands are packed. People are loving what they're seeing on the track. They didn't love it when Denny won this week, but racing wise, and the incidents, they still love it. That's what NASCAR was built on. Is confrontations and guys wrecking each other and getting into each other. But I definitely think it's good for NASCAR. We'll see how the viewership is for this week at Richmond. See how it compares. But I definitely think that it's a good thing, and I think there's going to be more. It might be two guys that have never been into it before, or it can be guys that are into it all the time. But I think there's going to be more conflict, especially as the playoffs get here where everything means more. And, we'll see. But yes, 100% yes, it is a great thing for the sport. And I'm glad to be a NASCAR fan. I'm as glad as I ever have been. And I hope you all feel the same way. Just wanted to take a moment here before we end the podcast to plug something that I'm going to be a part of later on this week. And that is Asphalt Media on TikTok is hosting a iRacing event. It is a race, and I'm going to be in it. And it's called the Rainbow 101. And it is benefiting different types of cancers. The winner gets to donate to the charity of their choice, and it's to benefit cancer patients. And so I just wanted to shout out Asphalt Media on TikTok, and they're going to be live at 7 Eastern Friday night for this race. I'm going to be in it on iRacing. They do a really cool broadcast-like setup. It's literally like you're watching a real race. They have a commentary team. They do a great job and a great production, and they're doing a great thing. And for this race, I'm going to be driving a solid orange car. They're doing solid colors. You don't really get to do a paint scheme. It's just solid colors for what type of cancer that you are representing and that you're racing for, that type of thing. I chose leukemia for my good friend, Chanisa Robinson, that passed away a couple years ago. And, hopefully going to be the number 12 as well for her. And I just wanted to take a second to shout out those guys and what they're doing. And I hope you all will tune in and support me and my orange ride. And hopefully I can get us to the front and hopefully win this thing. But I just wanted to shout out Asphalt Media. And I hope you all tune in. Like I said, live on TikTok, 7 p.m. Eastern, Friday night. And I hope to see some fans in the TikTok viewership thing. While they're live, I hope to see some names pop up that I recognize. So I wanted to shout out them, and I want to shout out you all. Thank you all for, supporting me. And I really appreciate it. It seems like, looking at the numbers, the listenership has went up the last couple of weeks. The Atlanta episode is one that really strikes me that has went up compared to my other ones, and that's awesome. That means we're getting new listeners in here, and I can't thank you all enough for that from the bottom of my heart. I started this probably 2 or 3 months ago. I don't really remember, but just in a hope to do something for fun, and it's turned into something that is more fun than I could have imagined. And getting to talk with you all about these races and things that happen on the track is really awesome, and it's something that I look forward to doing every week. So thank you all. Continue to like, rate, review, subscribe, listen. Rate and review is one thing that I'm really harping on right now. If you could just leave a 5-star review, that would be awesome. I would really appreciate that. And I'm still selling t-shirts. Haven't got an order together in a little bit, but that's still an option if you all want t-shirts. If you're listening from out of state, I can ship it to you. Just tell me what you want. They're nice. They say JD's NASCAR and Sports Podcast on the front and the back. They have our logo. So just let me know. And once again, thank you for tuning in. And I hope you all enjoyed this episode.